Chapter 1588. Melinda held Gumengmeng's hand and smiled sincerely and warmly. Have you forgotten, great messenger? Bridges is your affiliated tribe. Your words are like the will of God. We will never reject you. Gumengmeng shook her head. I am not giving orders as the messenger of the beast deity. I am asking for your help as a friend. Melinda did not understand the difference between the two. Gumengmeng was Gumengmeng, the messenger of the beast deity and her friend. No matter which identity she used, she was still Gumengmeng. As long as Gumengmeng said it, Melinda would not refuse. But she did not try to defend herself. She just smiled and nodded. All right, as a friend, I will agree to your request. Gumengmeng's heart relaxed after the official matters were settled. On the first night, Gumengmeng stayed at the seaside. Melinda and Carter led the mermaid tribe back to the deep sea. Waves of mermaids started blowing bubbles, which gathered together to form a huge bubble. Countless mermaids worked hard for the entire night and finally completed it the next morning. A huge bubble covered the corals. The seawater was a vacuum and the bubble was filled with oxygen. This allowed Gumengmeng and the rest to move around freely in the sea. After preparing all these, Melinda returned to the shore and invited Gumengmeng into the sea. Melinda's hospitality was hard to reject. Gumengmeng thought that since she was revisiting an old place, it would be a pity if she did not enter the first stop to search for the 7 treasures. Since there was a solution now, Gumengmeng was naturally willing to go. Elvis and Leah had never gone into the deep sea before. The last time Gumengmeng came, Little Shit had accompanied her. The two of them had been waiting by the shore. This was a rare opportunity, so they naturally had to accompany her. Melinda, Carter, and Pei Rui each blew a bubble the size of an astronaut's helmet over the heads of Gumengmeng and her family. Oriton looked rather pitiful without anyone to take care of him. Without an oxygen mask, he could not go into the water. But it was normal not to bring him along since it was a family trip. So he sat by the shore without any expression. He just watched Gumengmeng quietly, completely forgetting about him in her excitement. Anyway, it was not the first time. Oriton should be used to this kind of life. Aren't you going down? Pei Rui's large eyes shone with a clear light as she looked at Oriton timidly. Oriton looked at Gumengmeng. Seeing that she had heard Pei Rui's words, he turned around to look at her. When their gazes met, Gumengmeng smiled until her eyes curved into crescents. Why not? The seabed is so beautiful, let's go together. Oriton nodded his head expressionlessly, replying with a stiff yes. Pei Rui immediately blew a huge bubble over Oriton's head, then pushed him towards Gumengmeng's side. As he pushed, he said, "You are good at everything, just that your personality is too awkward. If you want to go, just say it. If you don't say it, who will know that you want to go?" Oriton turned his expressionless face to the side and said coldly, "I didn't say whether I wanted to go or not. She's the head of the family and I'm the guardian beast. I'm just following orders." Liar. Pei Rui's little nose was raised to the sky. He was no longer the little mermaid whose legs would cramp the moment he saw Oriton. After spending so many years together, he was already used to his zombie-like face. Moreover, he was very clear that although Oriton looked fierce, he was more loyal than anyone else. When he said that he would not let anyone bully him, he really did it. Aside from the topic. Chapter 1589. Although they did not spend much time together, Oriton would always inquire about Pei Rui's management in Saint Nazaire every time he returned. If anyone tried to bully Pei Rui, they would receive a stern warning from the big white cat. Due to Oriton's special status, no one in Saint Nazaire dared to provoke him, even if they were of a higher level than him. Moreover, there was a rumor that Gumengmeng wanted Oriton to take care of Pei Rui, so Pei Rui's status in Saint Nazaire was upgraded to that of a nameless member of the messenger's family. Of course, Gumengmeng did not know about all this. Even if she did, she would just laugh it off. Because she knew better than anyone that Oriton treated Pei Rui well because Pei Rui always brought him fresh and delicious seafood. After the group entered the water, the sea turtles that Melinda had arranged were already ready. The largest sea turtle was as big as a small yacht, with over 20 sea turtles on each side. They were lined up neatly from big to small. The smallest one was only the size of Gu Mengmeng's palm. It stretched its neck and tilted its head to look at Gu Mengmeng with a face full of curiosity. The back of a sea turtle is wider and it swims steadily. It's suitable for you to sit on. Melinda looked at Gu Mengmeng's stomach thoughtfully and smiled meaningfully. Gu Mengmeng placed one hand on her stomach and the other on Elvis's neck, allowing him to carry her onto the back of the sea turtle. Sitting steadily, Gu Mengmeng turned around and flashed a big smile at Melinda. You don't say, this is my first time riding a sea turtle. In my memory, only Xuanzang had such treatment when he was retrieving scriptures from the West. Huh, thanks to you, I can also experience the treatment of a senior monk from the Tang dynasty. Tap 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 tap. Baya Bayubiu, seeing that she was having fun, everyone's faces were full of smiles. The sea turtle warship swam steadily but not too slowly. Gu Mengmeng could feel the impact of the water current on her. If not for Elvis supporting her, she would have been washed away. Leah was afraid that she would be uncomfortable if the water current hit her too hard, so he sat in front of her and blocked the impact for her. Heading downwards, they quickly reached the giant space bubble that Melinda had prepared for Gu Mengmeng. The sea turtle stopped outside the bubble and Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng down from the back of the sea turtle, before stepping into the bubble. Melinda poked lightly and the bubble on Gu Mengmeng's head popped. Elvis, Leah, and Oratin did not need anyone's help. They stretched out their claws and popped the bubble. Although it was also the first time for the three males to enter the deep sea, they kept their cool and naturally would not express their curiosity like Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng opened her arms wide and took a deep breath. So the air at the bottom of the ocean smells like this. It's a little salty and has a faint smell of seaweed. I didn't experience this smell the last time I was here because I had the kiss of the beast deity. Luckily, I can make up for it this time. Yeah, if I ever return to the modern world, I will tell those perfume sellers that their sea breeze perfume is trash. Elvis and Leah looked at each other and smiled. She actually wanted to return to the modern world, right? Even so, she still stayed for the sake of the two of them. Chapter 1590. Melinda held on to Gu Mengmeng's arm and said, if you like it, you can stay here for a few more days. I will ask the mermaids to take turns blowing air into this place. I guarantee that you will have an endless supply of deep-sea air. All right. Gu Mengmeng agreed readily. After all, the arrangements for the kiss of the ocean required time and she had to stay here for a few days. Without water, the living corals quickly turned into dead corals. They no longer had the furry feeling they had when they were alive. Instead, they had a metallic luster and were as red as blood, giving off a luxurious vibe. Fortunately, this was the deep sea and it had not been overdeveloped by the modern world. So the corals were not considered precious items. Otherwise, Gu Mengmeng's heart would ache to see such a waste. The air bubble did not cover a large area, but there were 4 to 5 corals in total. Each of them was as tall as Elvis and had a thickness that 3 people could surround. Gu Mengmeng's eyes sparkled as she circled the corals. Melinda also followed Gu Mengmeng's gaze and sized up the corals. She really could not see anything different about them and could only ask, what's wrong with these corals? Is there anything special about them? Gu Mengmeng held onto the corals with one hand and supported her waist with the other. She tilted her head to look at Melinda and asked with a smile, Melinda, do you have many of these corals in your ocean? Melinda didn't understand, so she nodded. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her little hands together and asked again, then, can I break off some of them to make a string of beads? Melinda thought Gu Mengmeng wanted to say something else. Was there a need to discuss such a small matter with her? Chuckling, Melinda held on to Gu Mengmeng's wrist and said, Great Messenger, how many times do I have to say it before you remember? This is your tribe and everything here belongs to you. You can break as many as you want, no one will care. Really? Gu Mengmeng grinned and said, then I won't stand on ceremony. I want to make a few more string of beads, one for myself and one for my daughter, and one for you and Sandy. Me too. Melinda was elated. Previously, Carter had made an earring for her, and later on, Carter had made a second one for her to make a pair. There were many pearls in the deep sea, but she was the only one with such a pair. Now, even if many people did not recognize Carter, they would recognize the earrings on Melinda's ears. Once they saw this pair of earrings, they would know that they were from the messenger's tribe. Now that Gu Mengmeng wanted to make the bracelets and she also had a share, she was naturally very happy. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "We're good friends, of course we should share good things. You know what? Red coral is one of the 8 treasures of Buddhism. It can bring good luck to the wearer." Buddhism? Melinda asked curiously. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Just like how you worship the beast deity, Buddhism is another kind of deity that the beast deity worships. I didn't believe it before, but after these few years, I have no choice but to believe it. Gu Mengmeng laughed at herself. The atheist Gu Mengmeng was now worshipped as the beast deity. This was really a resounding slap to her face. Oh. Melinda's eyes lit up. The deity of the beast deity, how impressive was that? Chapter 1591. With his permission, Gu Mengmeng started to instruct Elvis and Bulai to break off the corals, then use their sharp claws to cut them into small pieces, before slowly grinding them into a round shape. Fei Rui's technique of spitting water needles had already been perfected. One by one, he accurately pierced a small hole in the center of each coral bead without any deviation. After the beads were all polished, the problem was how to string them together. On land, they could use vines to make a rope, but this kind of rope could not withstand the corrosion of seawater and would definitely break after a long time in the water. If they were to use hair, it would be too thin, ugly and hard to fix. Just as Gu Mengmeng was in a dilemma, Melinda gave a better suggestion. She said that there was a type of shellfish at the bottom of the sea. The flesh on the inside of the shell was coiled up, and after the flesh was removed, the tendons would be left. They were elastic and flexible, and could withstand the corrosion of seawater. The only problem was that this type of shellfish fed on venom. Usually, it would be used to capture poisonous fishes to eat, so it was highly toxic. Not to mention normal people, even a 5th-level mermaid like Carter would not go near it unless he had no other choice. If it was in the past, this matter was easy to handle. Gu Mengmeng had snake's tear of the beast deity on her, so she was immune to all poisons. A mere little shellfish could not do anything to her. But after Wang Xiaoxin left, all the special buffs on her had been reset. Not to mention poisonous shellfish, even a mosquito might be able to bite her to death. Risking her life for jewelry, Gu Mengmeng weighed the pros and cons and felt that it was not worth it. Leah held onto Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and smiled. "Did you forget again, you have 2 omnipotent males? But it's poisonous." Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Leah chuckled. It's been so many years, haven't you gotten used to the beast world style? Females just need to give orders. Males have to think of how to complete them. Gu Mengmeng still shook her head. "I don't want my males to risk their lives for a piece of jewelry." "Forget it, I'll think about whether there are any other alternatives." Leah sighed and placed both hands on Gu Mengmeng's shoulders. He lowered his head to accommodate her height and looked into her eyes. "Have you forgotten who I am?" "You are Leah." Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in confusion. "What else?" Leah asked with a smile. Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and said, "Anne." Leah sighed and said, "All right, one pregnancy makes one foolish for 3 years. Seeing that you went offline because of my intelligence, I will kindly remind you. I am the most talented witch doctor in history. Detoxification is my specialty." "Huh?" Gu Mengmeng tilted her head, looking confused and innocent. Leah smiled as he tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose. "I'll be sad if you don't trust me when you're in trouble. It feels like a hero has no place to use his skills. How miserable." Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing and said, "It's not that exaggerated. I just can't bear to see you and Elvis get hurt." Leah kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead and said, Your reluctance certainly makes me feel warm, but Gu Mengmeng, I urgently need to show you my abilities. I look forward to you relying on me. Chapter 1592. Yes, my queen. Leah kissed the back of Gu Mengmeng's hand teasingly before turning to leave like an elegant knight. Melinda was afraid that something would happen to Leah, so she asked Carter to personally bring some men to accompany Leah to retrieve the poisonous shellfish meat. Meanwhile, Melinda stayed at the coral dock to prepare a welcoming banquet for Gu Mengmeng. After all, this was the first time the messenger of the beast deity, the true leader of the Bridges tribe, had arrived at the bottom of the ocean after the establishment of the Bridges tribe. Naturally, they had to celebrate and at the same time, show the strength of the tribe to the messenger. They hoped that the Bridges tribe was not only the messenger's tribe, but also the messenger's pride. Gu Mengmeng naturally had to attend the banquet, but the air at the bottom of the ocean was limited and not suitable for a bonfire. So to heighten the atmosphere, Melinda used large seashells to place many luminous pearls around the banquet. They were arranged in picturesque disorder, like a small mountain of luminous pearls. It was extremely extravagant. The entire banquet was filled with the sour stench of extravagance. Gu Mengmeng felt that she was the only one emitting the fragrance of poverty. Sigh, she had been the messenger of the beast deity once, and now she was the beast deity again. Gu Mengmeng felt that she was probably the kind of person who could leave her name in history. Others were at most uncorrupted, but Gu Mengmeng was so uncorrupted that she did not even have any sleeves. Yeah, she must take the coral beads this time. She must give Elvis and Leah one each. She could not be the messenger of the beast deity for nothing. It sounded impressive, but she had suffered so much that she almost lost her life. She would be letting herself down if she did not get some mental damage compensation. Thinking of this, Gu Mengmeng secretly ground her teeth. Elvis moved closer to Gu Mengmeng's ear and blew gently. He pointed at the luminous pearls in the seashells and asked, "Do you want one?" Gu Mengmeng nodded without hesitation. Snakel did not say anything else and went up to grab a handful and stuffed it into Gu Mengmeng's hands. "Here, take it and play with it." Gu Mengmeng instinctively looked around. Seeing that no one had seen them, she hurriedly put the luminous pearls back and said softly, "This does not belong to us. It's not good to take it just like that. Didn't Melinda say that this is your tribe and everything here belongs to you? You can take whatever you want, there's nothing wrong with that." Elvis paused for a moment, then continued, "If anyone has any objections, ask them to look for me. If you're not convinced, you can challenge me. If you win against Leah and me, you can snatch this stupid thing back." Gu Mengmeng was sweating. Elvis meant that if they gave it, they would give it. If not, they would snatch it, right? She poked Elvis and said, "He's a beast king after all. It's not good to bully others like this. There's nothing bad about snatching things from my female." Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng and grabbed another handful from the shell for her. "Take it if you like it. The rules here are different from your world. Survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. Power is the rule. Leah and I are powerful enough so we can set the rules and we will listen to you." Gu Mengmeng thought about it and felt that she should inform Melinda. After all, these things were taken out by Melinda and it would not be good for her to keep them without a word. So Gu Mengmeng pulled Melinda and asked, "Can you give me a few of these pearls?" Chapter 1593. Gu Mengmeng followed Melinda's finger and almost fell over. Damn, what a flirtatious walk. A row of mermaids and orcs with different hair colors, with a human body and a fish tail. Their bodies were well built and smooth, unlike land beasts with bulky muscles, but rather well-proportioned and slender muscles. The mermaid lines connected to the fish tail made one's blood boil and imagination run wild. Gu Mengmeng felt her nose heating up. She quickly pinched her nose and waved her hands at Melinda. Don't. A married woman cannot withstand such temptation. Please spare me." Elvis's face darkened the moment he saw Gu Mengmeng pinching her nose. The reason was simple. She would only do this when she was about to have a nosebleed. And she would only have a nosebleed when she was tempted. Even if he or Leah stripped her naked, she would not have a nosebleed. She would only have such a reaction when he and Bulai were entangled together in some ambiguous scene. So, this row of fish, haha, looks like it would be delicious if it was roasted. Gu Mengmeng had been glancing at Elvis the moment Melinda said she wanted to give Gu Mengmeng men. Naturally, she did not miss the murderous look in his eyes. She cupped Elvis's face with both hands and smiled. Hubby, calm down, calm down. Look at my pregnant belly. Why would I have such thoughts? Don't worry, I only want the items. I don't want any of them. Really? Elvis lowered his eyes and stared at Gu Mengmeng coldly. Gu Mengmeng nodded firmly. No. Definitely not. Elvis thought about it and snorted. You also said you don't want Leah. You also said you don't want Snake. You also said you weren't interested in that bird man a while ago. Gu Mengmeng felt that she had indeed been slapping herself in the face. She held her cheeks with both hands and looked up at Elvis. Hubby, my face hurts. Elvis was flushed by her cuteness and his lips could not help but curl up. He removed her little hands and pinched her chubby little face due to her pregnancy. If you know your face hurts, then don't do it again. Yeah, I won't do it anymore. Gu Mengmeng promised. Elvis then kissed Gu Mengmeng in satisfaction. Then, he caressed Gu Mengmeng's tummy gently. After you give birth to a daughter, Leah and I will definitely make it up to you. It was not an exaggeration to say that Gu Mengmeng's legs immediately gave way when Elvis said that. She wasn't the one who wanted a mermaid to be her new lover. She was innocent. She was framed by Melinda, sob, I feel so wronged, but I can't explain myself. Seeing how Gu Nanbao was biting her handkerchief pitifully, Elvis's mood finally improved. He looked at the mermaid coldly and snorted without saying a word. He walked slowly to the main seat and sat down steadily. Carrying Gu Mengmeng in his arms, he sat in the most comfortable position for her to sit on as a human-skin thermostatic chair. Intentionally or unintentionally, he played with Gu Mengmeng's long hair. That lazy and casual look made him look like King Zhou of Shang who was carrying Daji to court. Everything was ready. Melinda had no intention of waiting for Kate and Leah. After all, females were respected in the beast world. As long as she and Gu Mengmeng were present, the banquet could begin. The first performance was, of all things, that row of mermaids performing a dance. Chapter 1594. Elvis's eyes were still looking down at Gu Mengmeng. The redder her face became, the darker his face became. Gu Mengmeng only retracted her gaze obediently when she heard the sound of teeth grinding above her head. She buried her entire face into Elvis's chest. Actually, she did not have the intention to take in a new partner, but since he danced so hard, wouldn't it be a waste if she did not watch? But it would not be good to cause some family conflict just to feast her eyes, right? Even if a young man in the modern world wanted to peek at a lady, he would not dare to do it in front of his wife, right? Gu Mengmeng's little act of burying her face really pleased Elvis. The malevolence on his face disappeared instantly, and he only felt that this ostrich was so adorable. So he lifted her little chin and kissed her deeply on the lips. Acting as if there was no one else around, they were deeply entangled. He kissed until Gu Mengmeng's whole body went limp and was almost out of breath, before he released her reluctantly. He used his thumb to gently wipe away the remaining saliva at the side of her lips, gritting his teeth and saying, I really can't wait, I can't wait for you to give birth to her today. Gu Mengmeng's face turned red because of the lack of oxygen. She pouted coquettishly and punched Elvis's chest, saying, if I give birth today, it will be premature. Elvis choked and said with a serious expression, that won't do. Leah said that you must be pregnant for a full month, or else it will not be good for you and your daughter. You still know? Gu Mengmeng glared at him. Gu Mengmeng could not be blamed for being pretentious, it was just that this brother's expression of desire was too obvious. She felt uncomfortable sitting on his lap. How many years had they been a married couple? Wasn't it just because she was pregnant that she could not have sex with him? Did he have to be so high profile and show how wronged he was in public for how long? All males in the world are the same, they are all animals that think with their lower bodies. Gu Meng Meng mumbled and stiffened her neck, not looking at Elvis anymore. Elvis shook his head helplessly and said, "Silly girl, this is a display of my love for you. If I don't get hard when I see you, then what will happen to your future happiness? Don't be angry, it will affect your daughter badly." Gu Meng Meng became even angrier upon hearing this. She turned her head and asked, "In your eyes, am I important or daughter important? Now that you have her, you don't care about me anymore? You're not afraid of my anger, but you're only concerned about whether your daughter will be affected? Elvis, doesn't your conscience hurt?" Leah had told Elvis before that it was normal for pregnant women to be unreasonable due to their fluctuating emotions. Moreover, in Elvis's eyes, when had Gu Meng Meng ever been wrong? She was angry. It was obvious that he had said something wrong. He was the one who was wrong, not her. Since he was in the wrong, Elvis naturally apologized with a good temper, coaxing and teasing her. But just when Elvis was apologizing to Gu Meng Meng, a mermaid swam over and stood in front of Gu Meng Meng, saying, "Mighty messenger, I am the third-level mermaid beast Jimmy, can I invite you to swim in the sea with me? I know a place with a beautiful view." "I think you're dreaming too." Elvis raised his eyebrows and sneered, "Let's see if you have the ability to take my female away from my arms." Jimmy did not seem to be afraid of Elvis, who was the Beast King, at all. In other words, males were fearless when it came to courtship. Chapter 1595. The corners of Elvis's lips curled up slightly, revealing a devilishly charming cold smile. "No, you are wrong. I am not stopping you, I am giving you a chance." Jimmy tilted his head and looked at Elvis, as if he did not understand what was going on. Elvis stood up and placed Gu Meng Meng on the seat. Then, he took an unknown fruit from the table and gave it to Gu Meng Meng. "Xiao Meng, be good. Sit here and eat some melon and watch the show." "Hubby." Gu Meng Meng felt that this was the ocean and not Elvis's home ground. It was better to avoid trouble. She could just reject Jimmy, there was no need to blow things up. But Elvis cupped the back of her head and planted a kiss on her forehead. "Don't worry, it will be settled very soon." Gu Meng Meng was speechless. Elvis let go of Gu Meng Meng and took 2 long strides to stand in front of the mermaid beast. With this comparison, Gu Meng Meng realized that Elvis was much more muscular than Jimmy. His body proportions were also better and firmer. It was just that he was always hugging her every day and rarely had the chance to show his body in front of her. As a result, Gu Meng Meng had almost forgotten how stimulating it was when she looked at Elvis from afar. She really did not know the true face of Mount Lu. It was only because she was in this mountain. TSK TSK TSK, it was no wonder Elvis was angry just now. Hugging a mountain of gold and digging for potatoes, no one would be happy about who was the mountain of gold. While Gu Meng Meng was reflecting and criticizing herself, Elvis had already opened his mouth to speak. "If you want to woo my female, shouldn't you first issue a challenge to me?" Elvis lowered his head slightly. He did not need to release his pressure as the oppressive aura of a Beast King completely enveloped Jimmy. Elvis chuckled. With the absolute confidence and calmness of a superior, he said calmly, "Isn't accepting your challenge giving you a chance?" "We are in the ocean," Jimmy reminded. Elvis nodded and chuckled. There is no reason to stop a male from protecting his female, no matter where or who he is facing. Jimmy nodded in agreement and said, "Okay. Since that's the case, let's compete in the ocean." "This is not fair." Gu Meng Meng panicked and instinctively said, "Elvis is a land beast, he can't breathe in the sea, how can he compete?" Jimmy wanted to woo Gu Meng Meng and naturally would not go against her wishes. Whatever the female he liked said was right. "All right, let's compete here and not in the sea," Jimmy compromised without any principles. But Elvis did not appreciate it and said, "You don't have to give in to me, hubby." "Hubby." Gu Meng Meng was rather worried. Elvis stretched his neck left and right, then stretched out his long arms to hug Gu Meng Meng and kiss her. "It's all right, I'm suffering from internal heat and need a cold shower to calm down. Just eat your melon and watch the show." Gu Mengmeng wanted to say something more, but Elvis pecked her on the lips again. He squinted his eyes and gave her a reassuring smile. Feeling helpless, Gu Mengmeng could only sigh and return to her original spot without making a sound. She silently watched Elvis and Jimmy walk past the edge of the bubble and into the sea. The sea was the territory of the mermaids. Even though Elvis was powerful, he had a very important weakness, which was that he only had one breath left. Chapter 1596. Gu Mengmeng gritted her teeth in her heart, but maintained a faint smile on her face. If Elvis lost, how was she going to reject this Jimmy later? While Gu Mengmeng was plotting in her heart, Jimmy had already launched his attack on Elvis. Jimmy was a righteous mermaid and disdained using underhanded methods. Otherwise, he would have just lured Elvis far away and depleted his breath to win. There was no need for him to attack so hastily. Elvis replied with a cold smile. All is fair in war. Giving up one's advantage for the sake of so-called morality was not righteousness, it was stupidity. Elvis tried to move his fist. There was indeed a strong resistance in the water. Even if he swung his fist over, it would probably be useless. Thus, he gave up on the idea of a hand-to-hand fight and just stared coldly at Jimmy, waiting for his attack. Mermaids were extremely fast in the water. Even a beast king like Elvis could not see his movements clearly due to his limited vision in the water. However, vision was only a small factor in a battle. More importantly, it was the body's memory and instinctive sense of danger. So, when Jimmy's webbing was like a sharp knife aimed at Elvis's neck, Elvis's sharp claws were one step ahead of Jimmy and had already grasped Jimmy's throat firmly. Tilting his head and smiling, the beast pressure suddenly erupted, creating a huge ripple in the water. The ripple quickly pushed outwards, forming a powerful undercurrent, causing the scales of all the mermaids present to explode. That kind of fear was emitted from the depths of their bones, and could not be resisted. Jimmy was just a third-level beast and he was in such close proximity to the Beast King's pressure, so he naturally could not withstand it. His eyelids rolled back and he fainted, revealing his original form. Elvis was merciful, or else Jimmy would have been squashed into a fish meatball. It was not that Elvis had become merciful, it was just that Gu Mengmeng was pregnant and such a bloody and violent scene was not good for his daughter's prenatal education. She was a little female, as long as there was a beautiful fairy tale in the world, it would be fine. When Elvis carried the fainted Jimmy back into the bubble, the row of mermaids who were prepared to express their goodwill to Gu Mengmeng all sat upright and still, not daring to act coquettishly in front of Gu Mengmeng anymore. Elvis threw Jimmy in front of them and said calmly, "He doesn't look like he can take a beating, take good care of him." Yes. The mermaids understood that Elvis was indirectly expressing one word, scram. Thus, the row of mermaids carried Jimmy, who had transformed into his true form, out of the bubble. At the same time, Leo was walking back with a thick bunch of poisonous shellfish tendons. He looked at Jimmy's corpse and then at Elvis. The two of them exchanged glances and instantly understood what was going on with this row of mermaids. Leo mischievously tripped the mermaid beast in the middle with his tail. If they were in the water, nothing would have happened, but they were in a vacuum bubble. Hence, that mermaid stumbled and fell onto the people in front of him, bringing the people behind him with him. As a result, the entire row of mermaids fell out of the bubble in an extremely pathetic manner. It was a stark contrast to their cheerful appearance when they entered the bubble. Chapter 1597. Melinda lowered her head and smiled, replying to Carter using sound waves. She told him about Elvis's actions and concluded that even if she had the intention to make arrangements, those mermaids would have been scared out of their wits by Elvis. Who would dare to approach Gu Mengmeng? Gu Mengmeng also understood that Elvis's actions just now were not due to Jimmy's provocation. He was making an example out of her and using an instant kill to awe those mermaids who had their imaginations running wild. That was the only way to settle things once and for all. But this made the situation a little awkward. After all, Melinda had good intentions. So Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and said, after making arrangements for the kiss of the ocean, "I will be staying in the desert for a while." Sigh, the sandstorms there are strong and there's no water source. Just thinking about it makes me miserable. Melinda was not a fool. How could she not understand that Gu Mengmeng was giving her a way out? She was saying that she would not be living in the ocean forever and mermaids could not leave the water for long periods of time. So she would not take in ocean tribesmen as partners. This was considered a proper official statement. Melinda did not have any intention of currying favor with Gu Mengmeng. She just thought that mermaids were handsome and had a different style from land beasts. If Gu Mengmeng liked them, she would naturally be happy to see it happen. But from the looks of it, Elvis and Leah would not agree so easily. And Gu Mengmeng herself did not seem to have any intention of expanding her family. So she would not force it. The banquet was still going on, uninterrupted by this small incident. Singing and dancing to celebrate peace and prosperity made it feel like the immortality peach banquet in the heavens. After all, the mermaids were the only race in the beast world that knew music. Birds could also sing, but they did not know how to play musical instruments. They could only use their throats to produce sounds. But mermaids were different. They could produce different sounds by hitting different kinds of shells, corals, tortoise shells, and rocks. Finally, they produced a harmonious melody. Compared to a concert in the modern world, it was boring. But it was the most exciting performance Gu Mengmeng had seen in so many years in the beast world. Leah passed the shellfish tendon to Gu Mengmeng and whispered into her ear, "I have tested it. The tendon without flesh is not poisonous. What do you intend to do?" Gu Mengmeng took a piece of shellfish tendon and pulled it in her hand. It was very elastic, just a little too thin. Thus, Gu Mengmeng took 3 shellfish tendons and braided them into a braid. Then, she strung the red coral beads together, 18 red coral beads in one string. She tied a dead knot at the end of the string, then made a simple china knot on the basis of the dead knot. Below the china knot, she tied 2 pieces of scrap pieces of the red coral beads, and the red coral bracelet was completed. Gu Mengmeng wore the bracelet on her wrist and smiled at Elvis, asking, "Hubby, does it look good?" Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head dotingly and indulgently. "In my eyes, you look good no matter what." Tsk, glib tongue. Not a single word is true. As she said that, the corners of Gu Mengmeng's lips curled up. Elvis cupped Gu Mengmeng's little chin and looked straight into her eyes. The tenderness in his eyes was deeper than the ocean. He said seriously, word by word, "I have seen you crying in your most pathetic state. I have seen you in your most unkempt mourning. I know how irritated you are during your period. I also know how fragile you are when you feel sad for no reason. I have seen you at your best and at your ugliest. But regardless of beauty or ugliness, I like it all. As long as it's you, I can't move my eyes away." Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1598. Gu Mengmeng didn't answer Elvis and just pecked his chin sweetly. Then, she nestled in Elvis's arms and watched Melinda's performance as she knitted the bracelets. She wore the first one on her wrist, the second one for Elvis, the third one for Leah and the fourth one for Melinda. Gu Mengmeng finished knitting the remaining corals and shellfish tendons. There were still 7 left. 4 sons and the one in their tummies needed 5 bracelets. Sandy wanted 1 bracelet, there was still 1 left. Gu Mengmeng's gaze swept around and landed on Oratin's face. Although they did not have that kind of relationship, Oratin was still Gu Mengmeng's guardian beast in the eyes of outsiders. She had to at least maintain her image, so Gu Mengmeng gave the last bracelet to Oratin. Oratin was a straight man and did not have much interest in jewelry. He was more interested in the plate of meat in front of Gu Mengmeng. But as a male, he still had the bottom line. He really could not snatch a female's food. But Oratin did not mind, while Fei Rui liked it very much. His clear big eyes kept staring at the bracelet on Oratin's wrist. There was no lack of corals in the ocean, but the problem was that the poisonous shellfish was too difficult to obtain. He definitely could not get it by himself. And even if he got it, he did not know how to knit Gu Mengmeng's braids, nor did he know how to knit a China knot. So, the raw materials were all from the deep ocean. But as a prince of the ocean, he did not have such a bracelet. Sob, 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 he really wanted it. Oriton looked at Fei Rui and raised his hand. You want it? Fei Rui nodded honestly. Is it very obvious? Oriton was expressionless. Yeah, every time I see meat, it looks like this. Fei Rui smiled embarrassedly and did not reply. Oriton took off the coral bracelet from his wrist and handed it to Fei Rui. This is for you. Really? Fei Rui's big eyes lit up. He looked at Oriton with admiration. But just as he was about to take it, he hesitated and lowered his head. This is a gift from the great messenger. Everyone in your family has one. If you give me yours, I don't mind, Oriton answered honestly. He wasn't consoling her. As long as Leah cooked regularly, he really didn't care about anything else. Fei Rui still did not dare to take it, but he really wanted it. Hence, he jogged over to Gu Mengmeng and looked at her expectantly with a pair of eyes as clear as the stars in the sky. Great messenger, Oriton said he is willing to give me that string of red corals. Can I have it? Gu Mengmeng stared blankly at Fei Rui. Instead of answering, she asked, I have already given it to Oriton. If he is willing to give it to you and you are willing to take it, just keep it. Why are you asking me? Fei Rui smiled awkwardly and said, I was afraid that if I accepted that string of red corals, you would be angry with Oriton and not dote on him anymore. Gu Mengmeng almost choked on her saliva. She and Oriton were really just family in name, and Oriton probably did not need her pampering. In this family, the person he needed the most was probably Leah. Thinking about this, Gu Mengmeng's gaze drifted towards Leah. Chapter 1599. So, when Gu Mengmeng looked at him and Oriton with that gaze, Li's hair stood on end. He squinted his long and affectionate eyes and asked with a dangerous smile, Xiao Mengmeng, what are you thinking about? Gu Mengmeng felt like she had been caught in the act. She chuckled and shook her head to deny that she was not thinking about anything. After getting Gu Mengmeng's approval, Fei Rui happily received Oriton's red coral bracelet and wore it on his wrist. He happily showed it off to everyone and even pulled Melinda's hand to show it off for a long time. This made Carter extremely helpless and he could only clench his teeth and say, You are Melinda's brother, I will tolerate you. That night, Gu Mengmeng stayed at the bottom of the sea. The next morning, Melinda, Carter and Fei Rui accompanied Gu Mengmeng to the location of the kiss of the ocean. If she was not sure that she was in the sea, Gu Mengmeng would have suspected that she was looking at a galaxy in the Milky Way. A black pearl floated in the center and the surroundings were filled with a layer of black poisonous fog. It looked like a Hollywood sci-fi movie where a galaxy was observed from a spaceship. However, the color was not dazzling and there was only dead black. There were many shells floating in the poisonous fog. The shells moved slowly, like the sloth lightning in Zootopia. They opened and closed slowly, as if they were eating the poisonous fog. Gu Mengmeng did not have Snake's tear of the beast deity to protect her and did not dare to get too close to the poisonous fog. She could only stay at a safe distance and pointed at the poisonous fog. Leah, did you get the shellfish tendon from these shells yesterday? Leah nodded in agreement. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her chin and thought seriously. When I took the kiss of the ocean back then, it was in a huge shell. Do you think it was eaten by a poisonous shellfish like that? Fei Rui secretly bit his lower lip and pulled Gu Mengmeng's arm. He shook his head and said, No. No? Gu Mengmeng was confused. Fei Rui took a deep breath and tilted his head at Gu Mengmeng. He smiled and said to Gu Mengmeng, Do you know about the legend of the deep sea, great messenger? There was another legend? Gu Mengmeng was now a little sensitive to the word legend. Back in the desert, Higgin told her a legend and then he died. In Modo, Grace had told her a legend, and then Grace had died. Now, Fei Rui was going to tell her a legend? Frowning, Gu Mengmeng asked instinctively, Can I not listen? Fei Rui chuckled and said, Let's hear it. This legend is related to the kiss of the ocean. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed, that feeling of unease growing stronger. Fei Rui did not wait for Gu Mengmeng's reply and just sat on the back of the turtle beside her. He transformed his fishtail into his legs and hugged his knees obediently. He tilted his head to look at Gu Mengmeng and said, "Legend has it that this black pearl was not originally called the kiss of the ocean. It was just a poisonous pearl produced from these poisonous shellfish. Although it was poisonous, it was not to the extent that it could disperse in the ocean and not disperse." Chapter 1600. Fei Rui seemed to understand Gu Mengmeng's confusion and just grinned. His smile was always so clear and clean that whenever he smiled, it was as if the surrounding poisonous fog was purified. Fei Rui continued hugging his knees and looked at the black pearl in the middle of the poisonous fog. He took a deep breath before continuing. About 1,000 years ago, there was an extremely venomous snake that fell in love with a female. Gu Mengmeng was speechless and instantly immersed herself in the relationship between the characters. An extremely venomous snake, little shit. A female. Wang Xiaoxin. The characters in the legend were all familiar people. This setting really hindered one's interest in listening to the story. Forget it, what legend? I'll just treat it as gossip. But this female didn't love him. She even hated him, rejected him, and wanted to kill him. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. This version clearly did not match the truth. Gu Mengmeng did not forget the scene of Little Shit and Wang Xiaoxin reuniting. One said lovingly, "I hate you so much, why did you make me wait for so long?" The other said affectionately, "Sorry, I came back late." Putting aside the fact that Wang Xiaoxin had plotted for 1,000 years in order to resurrect Little Shit, she had lured her to search for the 7 treasures step by step, and even sacrificed her own son. Just based on these 2 sentences alone, it was filled with the stench of adultery. Even if it was not love enough to shatter the heavens and earth, it should be unforgettable. How could it not be love, or even hatred? This was not logical, really not logical. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "Did you remember wrongly?" Fei Rui looked at Gu Mengmeng in confusion. He shook his head seriously. There are not many legends in the deep sea, especially when the mermaid tribe has been the guardian of the kiss of the ocean for generations. So I will definitely not remember this legend wrongly. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips. She could not figure it out no matter how hard she thought about it. She could only raise her hand. "All right, continue." "I will listen." Fei Rui nodded. Although the female was very resistant, that snake beast was unusually overbearing and unreasonable. He was also very powerful and unpredictable. In order to prevent the female's mate from finding her, he tied her up and hid her in the deep sea. As Fei Rui spoke, he turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. "The method that Melinda made for you was passed down from 1,000 years ago. At that time, the snake beast also made a bubble like this for the female so that she could move and breathe freely in the deep sea." Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly. Free movement and breathing? Within a limited area, he could move and breathe freely while being watched. What kind of freedom was that? Let's call it jail. Moreover, with such a depth, there was no chance of escaping. Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips and thought to herself, it was no wonder that Little Shit hated Wang Xiaoxin like that. The snake beast said that when the female is willing to mate with him, he will release the female. However, that female really rejected him. No matter what he did, she refused to mate with him. The more he pressured her, the more she resisted, just to escape. Then, in order to escape, the female accepted a mermaid. Fei Rui's eyes dimmed as he said this. Chapter 1601. Fei Rui shook his head lightly, indicating that he was fine. Then, he asked Gu Mengmeng, "If it was you, would you accept someone you don't like just to escape?" Gu Mengmeng really wanted to shake her head and say no. If it was 5 years ago, when she first came to the beast world, she might have said that. But what she had experienced in the past 5 years had taught Gu Mengmeng to lower her head to reality. Imagine, what if Cole had imprisoned her and forced her to mate with him? In order to escape and meet up with Elvis and Leah on land, Gu Meng Meng would definitely agree to mate with a certain mermaid. Not to mention that she would rather die than submit. Her life was still tied to Elvis and Lee's, and she was pregnant with a little one. If she died, Elvis and Leah would definitely suffer more than death. They would go crazy and destroy the entire beast world, including themselves. And Gu Meng Meng would never let that happen. So, the answer was obvious. Gu Meng Meng would definitely agree to accept a mermaid as a partner in order to escape. Although she was hesitant, Gu Meng Meng still nodded and said, "If it was me, I would have done the same." She could feel Elvis tightening his arms around her. She turned back to look at Elvis. Elvis's expression was solemn, as if he was hesitating for a long time, before saying casually, "You did the right thing." Gu Meng Meng leaned into Elvis's arms and laughed softly, saying, "But this kind of situation will not happen to us anymore. You and Leah are both beast kings. There is almost no chance of success to kidnap me under your watch." Fei Rui smiled and did not expose Gu Meng Meng's words. Actually, as long as they did not care about the consequences, it was still possible. For example, they were at the bottom of the sea now. Even if Elvis and Leah were beast kings, they would not be able to unleash their full potential in such a deep sea. They just had to burst their oxygen bubble and they could easily kidnap Gu Meng Meng. But in the deep sea now, the mermaids were all loyal to Gu Meng Meng. No matter how much they wanted to mate with Gu Meng Meng, they would not use such an extreme method. This was the fundamental difference between mermaids and snake beasts. Fei Rui knew that with Gu Meng Meng and Li's intelligence, it was impossible for them not to have thought of this possibility. But they had given the mermaid absolute trust, which was why they dared to follow them down to such a dangerous place. This trust was extremely precious, and the entire mermaid clan treasured it very much. Naturally, they would not do anything that would harm this trust. Since he didn't know how to do it, why would he say those words that would cause discord? Fei Rui withdrew his gaze and continued to look at the kiss of the ocean. The female isn't running away blindly. Although she's in the deep sea, she's able to communicate with the outside world through the mermaid. Her partner found the beach and started fighting with the snake beast. He fought with no regard for his own life, and the mermaid took the opportunity to take her away. Gu Meng Meng rested her chin on her hand as she listened to the story. Although Fei Rui only mentioned it casually, Gu Meng Meng was still shaken to the core. Little Shit's strength was already at the level of a demigod. What kind of price did Wang Xiaoxin's other partners have to pay to entangle him on the shore and give her a chance to escape? Just thinking about it made Gu Meng Meng shiver. Chapter 1602. The female managed to escape to the shore, but the mermaid could not leave with her. Fei Rui continued, because once on land, the mermaid would not have any advantage in battle. Not only could he not protect her, he might even be a burden to her. He could not waste the chance to escape that she had paid such a huge price for, so the mermaid decided to let the female leave by herself, while he returned to the sea to help her stall the snake beast, to fight for a chance of survival for her partners. Even if only one of her partners could leave this place alive, it would be a precious blessing to her. Gu Meng Meng caught an important point, which was that Wang Xiaoxin had agreed to mate with the mermaid, but this promise was not fulfilled in time, and the two of them were separated. In other words, the mermaid could not break through the level limit, and could at most reach the third level. A third-level orc challenging a demigod-level snake beast, calling it a challenge was an exaggeration, it was practically suicide. With Little Shit's fighting style, one whip of the snake beast's tail could directly turn him into a fishball. The mermaid was obviously not the snake beast's match, but he still managed to stall the snake beast. Because he told the snake beast, he stole the female when the snake beast was not around, and only he knew where the female was hidden. Fei Rui turned to look at Gu Meng Meng. Isn't this lie very clumsy? If he really stole the female, why did he come back and walk right into the trap? Isn't running away the most logical choice? But perhaps it was because the mermaid tribe was simple and did not know how to lie, or perhaps it was because the snake beast was in a frenzy and could not differentiate the truth from the lies. Anyway, the mermaid's lie successfully attracted the snake beast's pursuit, and in order to fight for more chances for her partners to escape, he kept swimming deeper into the sea. Indeed, the mermaid had an advantage in speed in the sea, but this advantage only existed when the difference in power between the two parties was not too great. If Little Shit was only a 3rd level or 4th level beast, the mermaid's strategy could have succeeded. But Little Shit was a demigod level beast in the past. Such a huge difference in level was enough to surpass the advantage of a race. Moreover, Little Shit was not an ordinary land beast, he was also considered to be his domain in the water. The mermaid was dreaming if he wanted to fight for time by swimming in front of Little Shit. Indeed, Fei Rui continued, unfortunately, the mermaid was caught by the snake beast before he could run very far. However, the snake beast did not kill him. Instead, it hung him and the other partners of the female upside down on the shore, forcing the female to go back by herself. The female did not run far from the start. She had been lurking nearby. When she saw that her partner and the mermaid were captured and that their lives were in danger, she finally took the initiative to appear in front of the snake beast. Gu Mengmeng had guessed it. Although Wang Xiaoxin was frighteningly rational, he was at least not a selfish person who did not care about the lives of others, especially those who were caught. They were her partners. Fei Rui was silent for a moment before he continued, the female ate the black pearl with the snake beast's venom. She needs the snake beast to detoxify her every day, or she will die from the poison. In exchange for the safety of their partners. The snake beast did not imprison the female at the bottom of the sea. Instead, he allowed her to stay on land with her partners. However, she had to go to his side every sunset to detoxify him. Chapter 1603. He obtained an ancient secret recipe from the elders of the Ocean tribe. There is no antidote for the poisonous shellfish pearl and he can only exchange his life for hers. As Fei Rui said, he pointed at the black pearl floating in the poisonous fog and said, it was born in the poisonous shellfish, grew up in the poisonous shellfish and belongs to the poisonous shellfish. If he wants to save that female, the only way is to eat the poisonous shellfish king and then kiss the female. Mouth to mouth, he will suck the black pearl into his body. Gu Mengmeng frowned and did not say a word. The males in the beast world were not afraid of death for the person they liked. They were brave and blind in love and would never be stingy with their lives. She could even imagine how overjoyed the mermaid would be when he found out about this antidote method. His entire mind was filled with the thought that Wang Xiaoxin could be saved and he did not have the slightest bit of rationality to think about how he would lose his life. The mermaid swallowed the entire poisonous shellfish king and swam towards the shore with all his might before the poison attacked his heart. Finally, he saw the female who was about to meet the snake beast under the afterglow of the setting sun. The poisonous shellfish king was stuck in his throat and his vocal cords were already destroyed so he could not make any sound. He could only use his tail to slap the surface of the water to attract the female's attention. Even though the poison of the poisonous shellfish king made his skin burn in pain, he did not care and just slapped the surface of the water with all his might, splashing countless waves. Finally, he successfully attracted the female's attention. The female ran to the beach and asked him what was wrong. He could not speak and could only hold the female tightly and kiss her lips. At this point, Fei Rui turned around to look at Gu Mengmeng. His eyes shone with a light that seemed like he understood, as if he was longing for it but also as if it was just an ignorant fantasy. He said, it was said that the scene at that moment was frozen. It was so beautiful that even the waves could not bear to attack their kiss. That was the most peaceful moment in the history of the ocean, without any waves. The setting sun gilded them with the most beautiful glow, just like a pair of gentle hands, gently protecting their first kiss, once in a lifetime, the only kiss. The poisonous pearl in the female's body was sucked into the mermaid's body by the poisonous shellfish king. The two poisons caused the mermaid's skin to start festering. He used the last of his strength to push the female away and told her that she was free and the snake beast could no longer use this pearl to threaten her. As for the mermaids, they threw themselves into the sea, sacrificed their broken bodies to the beast god, and stayed in the sea forever. Gu Mengmeng finally understood that the shell that she had casually touched previously was actually the poisonous shellfish king that was stuck in the mermaid's throat. There are people who are infatuated with love in the world. This hatred has nothing to do with the wind and the moon. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and murmured softly. She smiled. Our previous beast messenger really has no lack of Casanova. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng and kissed the top of her head. You don't lack anyone by your side either. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head. Of course she knew that she did not lack Casanova by her side. Snake, who had died twice for her, wasn't that the greatest love saint? There was also that Grace who tore off her own wings and jumped into the volcano lava for her. Glancing sideways, Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis and Leah. Both of you, you must accompany me well. Don't try to be a Casanova, understand? Chapter 1604. Fei Rui nodded with a smile, then opened his mouth. This action made Gu Mengmeng break out in cold sweat. She frowned and her eyes widened in shock. She held on to Fei Rui's shoulders tightly with both hands. What did you do? Fei Rui was still smiling. His eyes were as bright as the stars, clearer than the ocean and more flawless than the moonlight. I am the Prince of Bridges, and also a tribesman of Saint Nazaire. Fei Rui smiled as he spoke. But the blood trickling down from the corner of his lips stung Gu Mengmeng's eyes. Fei Rui's bright smile was tainted with a heart-wrenching pain. Moreover, I like the Great Messenger the most. I want to protect the deep sea line, and also, the Great Messenger. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she reached for Fei Rui's throat, wanting him to spit out the poisonous shellfish king. But Fei Rui grabbed Gu Mengmeng's hand and left a mark on the back of her hand. Then, he smiled at Gu Mengmeng. Great Messenger, don't be sad. My death can protect the entire ocean. It is my honor. After saying that, Fei Rui leaned back and charged into the poisonous mist. That pair of eyes that were as bright as the stars were smiling the entire time, looking at the crowd not far away. His most precious sister was there. But his brother-in-law was really reliable. He would protect Melinda well, so there was no need to worry. His most important friend was there. But Lee's cooking was so delicious, Oriton should be living a blissful life. His most beloved Great Messenger was there. Oh no, the Great Messenger was crying. But it was all right. Her partner was so strong and loved her so much. He would definitely be able to coax her. Sorry, Great Messenger, I didn't want you to cry. But, I still feel very blessed to have all of you send me off on my last journey. Forgive me for my selfishness. I really don't have the courage to complete my last journey alone. Finally, thank you, for listening to my long story. Fei Rui dispersed the poisonous fog. He turned around in front of the kiss of the ocean and swallowed it into his stomach. He could feel that the poisonous pearl was corroding his throat along his chest, slowly moving downwards. Great, it was sucked into the shell by the poisonous shellfish king. Fei Rui heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he slowly closed his eyes. It was as if the Milky Way in the night sky had disappeared. There was not a single star left. Fei Rui. Gu Mengmeng felt a burning sensation in her chest. She screamed at the top of her lungs as if it was tearing her entire chest apart. How could this be? Why would Fei Rui do something so unexpected? Yesterday, he was still acting coquettishly towards her, asking her if he could accept the bracelet Oriton gave him, but today, Melinda stepped forward and held Gu Mengmeng's wrist. Her eyes were red but she tried her best to smile. She said to Gu Mengmeng, Great Messenger, don't cry. Brother has long decided to do this. This is his mission. He is honorable and not tragic. Did you already decide to do this? Gu Mengmeng looked at Melinda with reddened eyes. Melinda nodded and replied, ever since the day the kiss of the ocean reappeared in the deep sea, brother has been preparing for this. Then why didn't you stop him? Gu Mengmeng didn't want to blame Melinda because she knew that Melinda would be the most upset about Fei Rui's death. but she couldn't help it. Chapter 1605. I stopped him. Melinda glanced at Gu Mengmeng and then at Elvis. She didn't continue. Gu Mengmeng choked. She narrowed her eyes and asked Melinda, "So, those mermaid males you arranged yesterday?" Melinda nodded and said, "They are the most outstanding mermaids that I chose. They are willing to exchange their entire lives for a kiss from you." Gu Mengmeng really didn't know what to say. Her heart ached for Fei Rui, but other people's lives were also lives. Melinda seemed to know what Gu Mengmeng was thinking about, so she pulled Gu Mengmeng's hand and said, "I know I am very selfish, but if possible, I don't want my brother to sacrifice himself to protect the pearl. So I prepared those." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "I don't blame you." Yes, she had no right to blame Melinda. Didn't she sacrifice Miranda's child to protect her own child? In times of life and death, human nature was always selfish. Gu Mengmeng looked at Melinda's bloodshot face that was still forcing a smile. In the end, she could not bear to scold her and could only sigh heavily. "You should have told me earlier. Maybe I could have stopped Fei Rui." Melinda's eyes were bloodshot. Melinda forced a smile and shook her head. If no one swallowed the poisonous shellfish king to absorb the kiss of the ocean, this pearl would continue to release poisonous fog and attract all the poisonous shellfish in the sea. When its poison dissipates, this black pearl will become an ordinary pearl, and the kiss of the ocean will cease to exist. So, someone must sacrifice himself to absorb the kiss of the ocean back into the poisonous shellfish king. Only then can the poisonous shellfish king continue to nurture it. Only then can the kiss of the ocean still exist when the next messenger of the beast deity arrives 1,000 years later. There was no such thing as a cheat in this world for no reason. Every benefit you obtained was paid for by someone else in silence. But some prices were hidden and you didn't know. And some prices were displayed in front of you in a bloody manner, letting you know what guilt was. Gu Mengmeng clutched at her chest as she looked at Fei Rui, who was curled up into a ball and sleeping like a baby. She watched as his body was slowly corroded by the poisonous fog until it completely disappeared, turning into a puddle of black fog. And in the middle of the fog, there was a small shell that was half a finger long and 2 fingers wide. It opened and closed slightly and the poisonous fog was absorbed bit by bit. Fei Rui didn't even leave a corpse behind. His flesh and blood became nutrients for the poisonous shellfish king to nurture the kiss of the ocean. His flesh and blood became the nutrients for the poisonous shellfish king, Gu Mengmeng, Gu Mengmeng, and Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng looked at Gu Mengmeng. And the poisonous shellfish kings. Gu Mengmeng felt and felt. The poisonous shellfish king into Gu and Gu Chen Vi. De and Gu Tian Mengmeng and Gu. Gu. The shells of the poisonous shellfish broke into pieces and fell off, sinking into the deep sea and disappearing into the endless darkness. Without the protection of the shell, the shellfish flesh slowly turned into a black mist just like Fei Rui and was slowly absorbed by the poisonous shellfish king. All the poisonous fog quickly, Guit and the Gu Li and the king and, Gu, the Lin the king, Li. Chapter 1606. The poisonous shellfish king fell into the mud at the bottom of the sea, and then the mud started to change at a speed visible to the naked eye. First, the color turned as black as ink, then the corals and seaweed on the mud withered and died as if their life was sucked out. Then, they were sucked in by the black mud, as if they had fallen into a swamp. The small fish that could not escape in time flipped over, then fell into the mud and were also swallowed. Gu Mengmeng recognized that this was no longer mud, but a swamp at the bottom of the sea. When she went to retrieve the kiss of the ocean, it was little shit who carried her all the way there. Now that she thought about it, if the person who accompanied her was not little shit, no one would have been able to withstand this poison. Even Snake would not have been able to withstand it. Was she going to suffer the consequences 1,000 years later for the sins she committed back then? She did not forget that little shit's skin was almost completely corroded by the poisonous fog, and his wounds were so deep that his bones could be seen. So now that she was the one who planted the seeds of evil, 1,000 years later, should she be the one to escort the next messenger of the beast deity to retrieve the kiss of the ocean? Without Snake's tear of the beast deity, she was no longer immune to all poisons. By then, she would probably die here, right? Wasn't it ironic that the mighty beast deity would die from the poison of the kiss of the ocean? Elvis tightened his arms around Gu Mengmeng's waist and kissed her little hand. He hugged her in his arms and said softly, now that things have come to this, there's no use being sad. Fei Rui is a responsible male. We won't forget him. Gu Mengmeng nodded and leaned lightly against Elvis's chest. I came to settle the kiss of the ocean, but never thought that it would be settled in such a manner. I thought that nothing would happen as long as I forbid others from swearing to me, but, other than swearing, it turns out that legends can also kill people. I don't want to hear any legends in the future, no one is allowed to tell me legends anymore. Elvis chuckled, feeling rather helpless. In the beast world, the lives of males had always been as cheap as grass. Not to mention Fei Rui, who sacrificed himself for justice, there were many males who sacrificed their lives for the sake of pleasing their females. Just how many males had died because of Nina in the past? Who would feel the slightest bit sad? The males in the beast world were ferocious and aggressive. There were countless deaths and injuries every day. It was survival of the fittest and the winner would take all the food. This was the truth of the beast world and also the standard. No one would shed tears for the weak. No one would even remember the males who died because they were not strong enough. Only Gu Mengmeng valued the lives of males so much. He loved her kindness, but he also felt sorry for her kindness. Sighing, Elvis patted Gu Mengmeng's back lightly and said, all right, the second rule in our family is that no one is allowed to talk about legends. If anyone dares to mention the word legend in front of you in the future, I'll bite them to death, okay? Gu Mengmeng wanted to laugh, but she could not. She looked at the poisonous shellfish king that had sunk deep into the swamp and the surroundings that looked more and more like the scene she had seen when she was retrieving the kiss of the ocean. She shook her head and said, let's go, this place will become very dangerous later. All right. Elvis did not say anything else and carried Gu Mengmeng in his arms. He gave Carter a look and the group of them turned around and swam towards the huge bubble that Melinda had prepared for Gu Mengmeng. Only Gu Mengmeng and Melinda kept turning back to look at the abyss that had been swallowed by darkness. They knew that there was a clean young man there. He had the clearest eyes and the warmest smile in the world. But from today onwards, he had to guard that pearl alone in the darkness for 1,000 years, aside from the topic. Chapter 1607. Fei Rui's death was a huge blow to Gu Mengmeng. She felt terrible, but didn't know who to blame. She couldn't find an outlet to vent her pent-up frustrations, so she was depressed all day long. At times like this, she started to miss Cole. After Cole's death, Gu Mengmeng thought about it a lot. Putting aside her subjective feelings of love and hate, Cole actually treated her quite well. He shouldered all the dirty things on himself, so that when something like Fei Rui's death happened, she could feel justified in hating him, blaming him and blaming him. As for herself, she had no qualms about it. Cole's personality was indeed twisted, but he also treated her with a twisted kindness. Elvis and Leah didn't want Gu Mengmeng to stay in the deep sea, so they briefed Carter on the tribe's operations, as well as the matters to take note of when protecting the kiss of the ocean, before leaving the deep sea with Gu Mengmeng. Surprisingly, Oriton, who had always been a glutton, didn't pester Leah for food. His face was still expressionless, but solemn. After reaching the shore, Oriton asked Gu Mengmeng, "Are you feeling terrible?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Oriton in confusion. Oriton pursed his lips and added, "It's about little Fei Rui." Gu Mengmeng's eyes dimmed as she nodded. Oriton asked, "Is it the feeling of having a hot stomach?" Gu Mengmeng smiled bitterly and nodded again. Oriton said thoughtfully, "Oh." After a long silence, he spoke again, "So this is how it feels to lose a friend." Gu Mengmeng looked at Oriton in confusion. She wanted to ask him something, but couldn't find the right words to express herself. But Oriton seemed to understand Gu Mengmeng's gaze and answered directly, I didn't have any friends in the past. I only started to get closer to others after meeting you guys. You, Elvis and Leah are strong enough, so, this is the first time I've lost a friend. Gu Mengmeng patted Oriton's shoulder and said, someone once told me that not every separation can prepare you well. It will cause you pain and catch you off guard. So, cherish the people in front of you. While they are still by your side, do your best to treat them well. That way, when they are caught off guard, our hearts won't be full of guilt. If only I had treated him better at that time, if only I had listened to him seriously at that time, if only I had listened to him seriously at that time, if only I had been tortured to a pulp. Oriton seemed to understand, but not really. He nodded his head and looked back at the deep sea for the first time. He told himself in his heart that from now on, whenever he met someone he cared about, he would spare no effort to treat them well. After leaving the deep sea, Gu Mengmeng's last stop was Saint Nazaire. When she returned to Saint Nazaire, she saw Barit standing at the entrance of the tribe to welcome her from afar. Barit, whom she had not seen for a long time, had already matured. He was no longer the lone brave young man who blindly obeyed Gu Mengmeng's orders and helped her escape from Saint Nazaire regardless of the consequences. In the short span of 5 years, he had been polished by the word love that he couldn't say out loud, and he felt a sense of vicissitudes. Other than Barit, Burke and Canwa had also come to Saint Nazaire. Chapter 1608. The change of the Beast King was such a big matter, it was easy to find out about it. Canwa was now taller than Gu Mengmeng by a head and a half. If Gu Mengmeng wanted to hug her son, she had to first wave her hands and make her son bend down. This meant that her son had really grown up and was a mature male now. Mum, why do I have a feeling that you are going to abandon me? Canwa walked to Gu Mengmeng's side and tugged at the corner of her shirt. Don't tell me you despise me for being a male now that you have a younger sister. Mum, I am your precious son after all. You can't just abandon him just like that, right? I won't fight with my younger sister for your affection. Gu Mengmeng poked Canwa's head. What's in your head? You are also a piece of flesh that fell from your mother's body. Back then, I almost sacrificed my life to give birth to you. How can you use such heartless words to mock me today? Huh. Mum, I was wrong. Hee hee. Canwa had always been a straightforward person. Seeing Gu Mengmeng poke him, he did not get angry and just laughed dryly. Gu Mengmeng sighed. But Canwa, Mum can't follow you for the rest of your life. Your second brother also has his own things to do. You have to grow up and learn to be independent. Upon hearing that, Canwa immediately exploded. Mum, are you still going to abandon me? Then, how about this? Mum, I found you a new lover. He's quite fun. Why don't you? Before Canwa could finish his sentence, he was sent flying by Elvis's kick. His face was so black that ink could drip out from it. New lover? Elvis clenched his teeth and squeezed out word by word. Do you want to die? Gu Mengmeng hurriedly stopped Elvis. She patted his chest and said, children speak without thinking. They are just children talking nonsense. Why are you throwing a tantrum? Domestic violence isn't right. Leah pulled Gu Mengmeng back from Elvis's arms and hugged her in his arms, not allowing her to stop Elvis. With a fake smile plastered on his face, he glanced at Canwa who had been sent flying, then looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, I feel that other than the amazing medical skills in that world, some of the proverbs are also very reasonable. For example, a loving mother produces spoiled children, a filial son is born under the rod, an unpolished jade is worthless, a son who doesn't get spanked is a failure. Gu Mengmeng finally understood that Canwa's new lover was like poking a hornet's nest. Elvis and Leah were most afraid of this. Sigh, this silly son, why did he only grow taller and not grow a brain? Saying such words in front of these two vinegar buckets was really asking for a good death, just like his father. But, no matter how much he wanted to court death, he was still her biological son. Gu Mengmeng definitely could not watch as her two Beast King fathers bully her second-level son. So he pushed Leia hard. Actually, with her little strength, she could not move Leia at all. But because she did not have the powers of a Beast King, Leia was even more cautious when carrying her. He did not dare to use too much strength and was even more careful than carrying a piece of tofu. He was afraid that she would get hurt. So, with Gu Mengmeng's push, she really struggled out. Chapter 1609. Elvis sighed helplessly and stood on the spot without moving. He said calmly, "I am the Wolf King." "I know. I am the Wolf Queen, so what?" Gu Mengmeng straightened her neck and roared. Leia was laughing so hard that he could not stand up straight. He placed one hand on Elvis's shoulder and pointed at Gu Mengmeng with the other. "Have you forgotten? Gu Mengmeng said before, a pregnancy makes you stupid for 3 years. Ha ha ha, we are going to have a hard time these 3 years." Elvis sighed and repeated, "Queen, I am the Wolf King." Gu Mengmeng was bewildered by his laughter, but she could not lose her stance. She straightened her neck and repeated, "I know. So." Cough. Canwu climbed up from behind Gu Mengmeng and wrapped his long arms around Gu Mengmeng's waist. Then, he turned her behind him and laughed out loud, "Mum, I am an adult male. I will be laughed at if I hide behind a female to avoid a battle. Don't forget, the warriors of the wolf tribe are never afraid of battle or death. Most importantly, you're the only female in our family. Whether it's your 2 crazy partners or us 4 brothers, none of us are cowards who hide behind you when you're in danger. Instead, we're the armor that stands in front of you. You're the one who should be protected, understand?" Gu Mengmeng was a little touched by her son's words and her eyes watered instantly. "Son," before Gu Mengmeng could say her touched words, Canwu laughed suddenly and said, "Moreover, Mum, you are really a little silly now. Your crazy partner is the Wolf King. If he wants to kill me, he doesn't even need to step on your corpse. He just has to stand there and stare at me and I will definitely die. Waving his fist at me proves that he has no intention of killing me. You suddenly pounced on me and made me so emotional that I am embarrassed, ha ha ha." Gu Mengmeng really wanted to give Canwu a hard slap, but she clenched her fists and eventually only poked Canwu's head. She comforted herself by saying, "Biological son, you are really my biological son." Canwu grinned foolishly and hugged Gu Mengmeng's shoulders, saying fawningly, Mum, seriously, why don't you get to know that new lover? Thick brows, good skin, broad shoulders, narrow waist and perky butt." Bang! Before Hu Jinwu could finish his sentence, he fell heavily onto the ground. Just as he said, Elvis did not even move his feet. He just raised his eyebrows and Canwu was already sprawled on the ground, unable to get up. "Mom!" Canwu begged for mercy and howled. Gu Mengmeng glanced at him coldly and said, "You can just speak, why are you so touchy? Release my son, now." Elvis took a deep breath and did not let go of Canwu. Instead, he walked to Gu Mengmeng's side and pulled her into his arms. He looked straight at Gu Mengmeng with his blue eyes and asked, "Do you have any thoughts about the new lover he arranged?" "No." Gu Mengmeng answered without hesitation. These 2 words successfully pleased Elvis. Elvis nodded and let go of Canwu. He looked down at Canwu from above and said, "Brat, if you try to shove people under my nose again, I don't mind permanently paralyzing you and making you a boneless wolf for the rest of your life." Chapter 1610. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Back then when he was still a little wolf cub, he was really cute like this. But now, a 1.9 meters tall giant was rolling around on the ground making a scene. It was really unbearable to watch. Sighing, Gu Mengmeng said calmly, "Canwu, get up." "No." Canwu snorted angrily, "Meet the new lover I prepared for you. I won't get up if you don't see him." "See, I'll see him. Gu Mengmeng sighed, then gave Elvis and Leah a comforting look. Wasn't it just meeting someone? She just had to say she didn't like him when she saw him. Just treat it as coaxing a child, why was there a need to be so serious? Elvis also knew that he had already hit Kanwu twice today. If he were to hit him again, Gu Mengmeng would really fall out with him. She had always been unscrupulously biased towards Huda and his brothers. Tolerating him twice today was already her limit. Alright, wasn't it just meeting a new lover? Hopefully, that new lover was lucky enough to be able to take a beating. Hearing that Gu Mengmeng was willing to meet him, Kanwu then crawled up from the ground. Ignoring the pain from Elvis's 2 punches, he hurriedly waved to the side and howled. Then, someone slowly walked out from behind the tree. He tried his best to make himself look calm, but his stiff expression and hands that did not know where to place them showed how uneasy he was. Gu Mengmeng could not help but smile bitterly when she saw who it was. She looked at Kanwu and asked, Victor is the new lover you introduced to me? If I remember correctly, the last time I left Zacharias, I had already clearly rejected him. No matter what, Gu Mengmeng would not have any other thoughts towards a little tiger who was about the same age as her own son. She did not forget that the first time she saw this little tiger, he was rolling on the ground with Kanwu, fighting fiercely. In Gu Mengmeng's eyes, Victor was just like her son's classmate. Once again, Gu Mengmeng was not a strange auntie, she was not a pedophile. Kanwu pulled Victor and forcefully pushed him in front of Gu Mengmeng. He whispered into his ear, let me tell you, this is really your last chance. If you don't grab hold of it, my mother will really fly away. As your brother, I'm willing to do anything for you. Look, I didn't even flinch when my father beat me up. If you dare to flinch, I'll bite you every time I see you in the future, even if I bite you to death. Victor was originally very nervous, but he relaxed quite a bit after being mocked by Kanwu. He glanced sideways at Kanwu and said, Tisk, how can you speak to your elders like that? Who can you bite to death with that mouth of baby teeth of yours? If I don't fight back and let you bite me, I'm afraid your teeth will fall off. Kanwu's temper flared up and he wanted to hit someone, but after looking at Gu Mengmeng, he tolerated it. She gave Victor a shove and said, you can pretend to be an elder in front of me after you've chased after my mom. Hurry up, don't dawdle. Victor also gave Kanwu a shove, then tidied up his beast-skin dress. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng and said, we meet again. I'm actually quite good. Why don't you try? You can abandon me if you're not satisfied, I won't blame you. Try. These 2 words shocked Gu Mengmeng so much that she felt like she was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. How could she try this? Gu Mengmeng felt a mouthful of blood rolling in her chest. She really wanted to vomit it on Victor's face. Did this child's head get squeezed by a door? Chapter 1611. Don't reject me. Victor suddenly looked up. Panic and uneasiness could be seen on his face without any psychological knowledge. I don't want much, I just want to be by your side. I won't force you, because I will stay behind. You just have to bring me along wherever you go. My hunting skills are very good, I can help you hunt whatever you want to eat. Moreover, my original form is a tiger, it's quite impressive. After all, I'm the king of the forest, it's cool to be your mount. What about me? Kanwu was infuriated when he heard that. He kicked Victor from behind and said, I'm helping you pave the way so that you can keep my mother. You haven't even taken the position yet and you're already betraying me? Scram, scram, scram. Didn't you see what level my 2 fathers are at? Do you even have a chance to hunt? King of the jungle. There are 2 beast kings right here, and you're just a Hello Kitty in front of them, huh? I don't need a stepfather who won't help me keep my mother. Humph. Gu Mengmeng watched as Kanwu and Victor fooled around. She was not angry and just felt that it was quite good. She was still worried that Kanwu would be lonely when Qi Xian was no longer by his side. After all, it was very rare to have only one child in the beast world. She was really worried that Kanwu would be alone after she left. But now it seemed that although he and Victor were fooling around, their relationship seemed to be very good. This way, she could rest assured. After Kanwu sent Victor flying with a kick, he leaned forward and stared at Gu Mengmeng. "Mother, this tiger is not good. It's normal that you don't like him. Why don't we change to another one? What do you think of Master Burke? I heard that he has a face that's very similar to the one you like. I reckon that with his capabilities, he would be willing to be a substitute by your side. Why don't you consider him?" Gu Mengmeng sighed and patted Kanwu's shoulder. "Kanwu, no matter where I am, I will always be your mother. You won't lose me." Kanwu's face darkened. He lowered his head and no longer spoke. Of course, he knew that no matter where Gu Mengmeng went, she would always be his mother. Moreover, he did not grow up sticking by Gu Mengmeng's side every day. He was not a mama's boy who could not survive without his mother. But this time, it was really different. He just felt that if he did not make his mother stay, he might not be able to see her again in this lifetime. This premonition made him very uneasy. He was so uneasy that he wanted his mother to stay no matter what. But, his stubbornness was putting his mother in a difficult position, wasn't it? He shouldn't have mentioned Borg. He knew that his mother was most afraid of owing emotional debts. It wasn't as if his mother didn't know what Burke had done for his mother. It was just that one of them pretended to be mute, and the other pretended to be blind. This was a tacit understanding between the two of them, and he shouldn't be the one to break the ice. "Mom, I know." Seeing Kanwu's dejected look, Gu Mengmeng's heart ached again. She hugged Kanwu in her arms and comforted him. "Even if I am not by your side, I still love you. I know that you have good friends by your side and will have a gentle lover in the future, so I am very reassured. You too, you have to know that Elvis and Leah will always be by my side. They will take good care of me, so you don't have to worry, understand?" Kanwu nodded, like an eggplant that had been hit by frost. Chapter 16:12. Actually, he was already an adult. When other males transformed into half-orcs, they should have left their parents and started their own family, but he still lived under his parents' protection for 3 to 4 years. It was not that he did not have the ability, it was just that he was like a kite. Because he was tied to a string, he knew that even if the wind stopped blowing, he would still have a place to return to, so he dared to fly around the sky without any fear. But when the strings suddenly broke, he was at a loss. If he had known earlier, he would not have dreamed of being a hero. He should have stayed by Gu Mengmeng's side obediently. It did not matter if others laughed at him as a useless person, he should have cherished the time he could spend with his mother, but now, it was too late to regret. Kanwu lowered his head and did not make a sound. Victor tried to get closer to Gu Mengmeng, but was stopped by Oriton. The reason was very simple. Leah whispered into Oriton's ear, "Our family only needs one tiger." In other words, if Victor caught Gu Mengmeng's eye, Oriton's rice bowl would be gone. Snatching a rice bowl from a foodie, you are really courageous. While Oriton and Victor were having an in-depth discussion, Elvis had already carried Gu Mengmeng back to their previous cave. Placing Gu Mengmeng at the entrance of the cave, Gu Mengmeng held Elvis's hand on her left and Lee's hand on her right as they entered the cave. Everything here was the most familiar. When she first came here, she was like a blind person. She could only move a little near the entrance of the cave and could not see anything else after entering. On the right side of the cave was the cloakroom that Elvis had dug for her after she came. Because she said that it would be too wasteful to throw away such a good fur coat after wearing it once, so all the clothes here were her old ones. They were made of different materials and styles, all neatly arranged. It was obvious that someone had taken care of them meticulously. Because of Cole, Gu Mengmeng had not returned to St. Nazaire for 2 years, so who was the one taking care of this cave for her? Gu Mengmeng looked back and her gaze landed on Barit, who was standing at the entrance of the cave. Barit frowned and chuckled, "Am I not the messenger's guardian? The messenger is not around, so I have to take good care of her things." Gu Mengmeng returned an apologetic gaze and chuckled. Barit, these few years, it's been hard on you. It's what I should do. Who asked me to owe you? Barit's gaze was filled with melancholy. There was an indescribable bitterness, but also an indescribable pleasure. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, No, Barit, you don't owe me anything. Oakley's incident was planned by Cole and it has nothing to do with you. You don't have to blame yourself for it and you don't have to repay any debt because of it. Barit lowered his head and avoided Gu Mengmeng's gaze. His lips were pressed into a straight line, unable to say the words I just need a reason to protect you. Gu Mengmeng patted Barit's shoulder and said, I'm leaving, you should let it go too. The 16 valued females in Saint Nazaire are the first beauties of each tribe. I have someone I like. Barit still did not look at Gu Mengmeng, his eyes staring straight at the ground. Chapter 1613. Barit did not look up the entire time. He opened his mouth, but the words that had been swirling in his chest were eventually crushed and reshaped between his teeth. In the end, it became an unrecognizable Barit. Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief at the fact that she had a sweetheart. She had already harmed Snake and delayed Gregory. If she dragged Barit into this, she was afraid that she would not be able to sort out this list of emotions even if she used 1,000 years. But she did not realize that Barit's gaze, which had been staring at the ground the entire time, was looking at her shadow. After she turned around, Barit then looked up. The deep affection in his eyes was as deep as the ocean, with turbulent undercurrents. I did not lose you, because I never got you, so to me, losing is an extravagant term. But it's alright, as long as you can be happy, I don't care about anything else. If you want to fly, then fly. I'll stay where I am and guard your things for you. No matter when you're tired and want to rest, everything here will be the same as when you left. You'll always have a familiar home, a familiar Barit, waiting for you at the same spot. That night, Gu Mengmeng gathered the 16 valued females for a bonfire party. They talked about all the interesting things that happened in Saint Nazaire in the past 2 years when Gu Mengmeng was not around. When Gu Mengmeng heard the 16 valued females praising Barit, her heart calmed down even more. Matters between women were never easy to resolve, but Barit was unanimously praised by the 16 valued females. Everyone said that he was a warm man who treated everyone especially well. Gu Mengmeng jokingly said that Barit was like the central air conditioner of Saint Nazaire, but Barit just smiled without saying a word. He was nice to the 16 valued females only because they were chosen by Gu Mengmeng. And every time he mentioned the 16 valued females, Gu Mengmeng would always have a proud look on her face. How was he warm to the 16 valued females? He was just guarding the things that she was proud of. It was no different from guarding the old clothes in that cave. Gu Mengmeng stayed in Saint Nazaire for a full 2 months, walking through every inch of the land. It was the salt lake where Elvis had first met her. She had molested Elvis here and tried to kill herself here. She had made a ruckus there for a long time. The platform of the deity's punishment when she first met Leah. At that time, she had even called Leah Beauty and Leah Daddy. She had also saved Barit who was on the brink of death there and even fought with Nina there. Because of a nosebleed, Sandy had caused such a ruckus that she thought she was going to die, and the territory where she had dug potatoes and sweet potatoes, she had visited every place once with Elvis and Leah, recalling the scenes that they had experienced over the years. Everything that she had felt tragic back then had become sweet now. 2 months later, Gu Mengmeng had planned to make a trip to the Mecca desert before winter arrived and settle down the heart of the desert. Then, she could die without any worries. But before she walked out of Saint Nazaire, she felt a sharp pain in her stomach. Gu Mengmeng clutched her stomach and her face instantly turned pale. Large beads of sweat started dripping down her face and she was in so much pain that she could hardly breathe. Chapter 1614. So, when Gu Mengmeng furrowed her brows, he immediately knew what was going on. Elvis, original form. Elvis panicked and his mind went blank, completely unable to think. He could only rely on their years of tacit understanding to reveal his original form without saying a word when he heard Lee's words. Leah placed Gu Mengmeng on Elvis's back and did not rush Elvis to return to the cave. Instead, he said, "Stand firmly and don't tremble. Once Gu Mengmeng's first labor pain is over, carry her back to the cave immediately." Elvis did not even dare to nod and only blinked his eyes to show that he understood. He did not forget the pain of childbirth that the beast deity, oh, no, Wang Xiaoxin made him experience in the illusion realm. Whenever he thought of that pain tormenting Gu Mengmeng, Elvis felt as if his heart was being stabbed by knives. If it was possible, he was willing to bear the pain of childbirth 10 times in exchange for Gu Mengmeng's current suffering. But unfortunately, this was the only thing in this world that he could not do for her. Other than feeling heartache, there was nothing else he could do. "I'm fine. I'm fine." Gu Mengmeng obviously knew what kind of torture her pain was to Elvis and Leah. She tried her best to smile. Even though her hair was instantly drenched in sweat and stuck to her face, she still tried her best to smile. She was afraid that these two fellows would go crazy and say something crazy like they were going to crush the child. Every time she gave birth, she had to fight her husband with all her might. This feeling was really terrible. "Don't talk, conserve your energy and stabilize your breathing." Leah frowned. He was really very conflicted about Gu Mengmeng's stomach. This was the child he had been looking forward to for 5 years. Even though it was not born yet, it was still a piece of his heart. But this piece of his heart was tormenting Gu Mengmeng so much, he could not deny that he had the urge to personally cut it off. Gu Mengmeng nodded and did as she was told. She adjusted her breathing according to the frequency of Lee's raising and lowering hands. The pain gradually lessened and Gu Mengmeng finally revealed a big smile. She said, "It's all right, I can bear it. It's not that painful." Before Gu Mengmeng finished her sentence, Elvis had already shot out like an arrow. Before Gu Mengmeng could scream, Elvis had already placed her on the beast skin bed in the cave. Gu Mengmeng did not know if she should say it out loud. Bringing a pregnant woman, no, bringing a pregnant woman to ride a roller coaster was inhumane. Inhumane. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng did not look well, Elvis was extremely worried. He held Gu Mengmeng's hand with concern and asked, "What's wrong? Does it hurt again?" "Huh?" Gu Mengmeng snorted and turned her head away, not wanting to talk to this idiotic husky. Once Leah entered the house, he immediately asked Elvis to start a fire, while he quickly cooked all the food in the house, in preparation to replenish Gu Mengmeng's energy at any time. Oriton received Lee's orders and brought the males of Saint Nazaire out to hunt. Even though the males of Saint Nazaire would always be out hunting at this time of the year and the surrounding tribes were already used to it, but this time, the two messengers had left their caves and the males were in a killing frenzy. No matter how big or small they were, they would not let anything go. Even the ferocious beasts that they would never touch during their hunts in the past were now ready to risk their lives and pounce on them, biting them to death and dragging them back to Saint Nazaire. Chapter 16:15. This caused the surrounding tribes to be in a state of panic. Could it be that Saint Nazaire was stocking up on food in preparation for a war with someone? But, wasn't Cole already dead? Could it be that another great demon king had appeared? The surrounding tribes tried to send people to Saint Nazaire to investigate, but the wild wolves and foxes surrounded Saint Nazaire so tightly that not even a fly could pass through, not to mention the orcs. Originally, the orcs did not care about wild beasts, but, firstly, there were too many of them, and secondly, these two types of wild beasts were obviously under the orders of the two beast kings. If they fought with them, it would be equivalent to directly challenging the beast kings. Haha, looking at the ferocious Saint Nazaire tribesmen pouncing on their prey today, which tribe could withstand such a powerful attack? Even now, the two beast kings and the great messenger had yet to appear. Hence, the crowd could only return to their own tribes resentfully, and started to actively set up defenses, but did not dare to snatch prey from the Saint Nazaire tribesmen at this time. Actually, there was no need for such a crazy hunt. The main reason was that there was a little loophole in the transmission. Leah told Oriton, prepare food to replenish Muming's energy, so that she won't be exhausted halfway through giving birth. What will happen if she is exhausted? Oriton asked. Leah said faintly, 2 lives in 1 body. Of course, Leah would not allow such a thing. By then, even if Gu Mengmeng would fight him to the death, he would definitely kill this daughter with his own hands to protect her. But Oriton did not know what Leah was thinking. He was a fool. 2 lives in 1 body, how could that be? Hence, he hurried out to make arrangements. His originally expressionless face now furrowed his brows, and with a heavy tone, he told everyone, the great messenger needs food, or else she will die. Hence, Saint Nazir exploded. The great messenger will die because of a lack of food. How could that be? Barit did not believe it at first, and wanted to see what was going on. But just as he reached the entrance of the cave, he smelled a strong scent of blood. He recognized this scent, it was Gu Mengmeng's blood. Previously, when she was plucking potatoes, she cut her hand and he was there too, so he recognized the scent of her blood. Barit's mind jolted as he turned around and ran without a second word, taking the lead in hunting for Gu Mengmeng. This attitude greatly agitated the males who were already agitated to begin with. Damn it, if they let the messenger of the beast deity die in their own tribe because of a lack of food, as males, they would not have the face to live anymore. Not to mention that taking care of females was the natural duty of males, taking care of the messenger of the beast deity was the duty of everyone in the beast world. Just Gu Mengmeng alone, who in the entire Saint Nazir had not received her grace. Which one of them had not benefited from her before? It was all thanks to Gu Mengmeng that the females and their families could comfortably survive the 2 seasons of winter and drought. Even if Gu Mengmeng was not the messenger of the beast deity, they would never let her die from a lack of food just because she was a person. And this kind of agitation would affect each other, just like adding firewood to a burning fire continuously. It would be strange if the fire did not burn even more. Gu Mengmeng was tormented by the labor pains in the cave. Without the tear of the beast deity, her hearing was not as good as before, so she did not know that there were rumors outside that she was about to starve to death, and needed all the food in the beast world to survive. If she had heard it, she would probably be so angry that she would fart her child out. Aside from the topic, this was the last time Susu told everyone about Heaven's vision in the beast world. Chapter 16:16. Leah made use of the time when Gu Mengmeng was not in pain to start a second fire to boil water. At this moment, an uninvited guest appeared. It was a familiar face, Joshua, the current witch doctor of Saint Nazir, the first-level ape who had wooed Gu Mengmeng before. He was already a first-level orc when he wooed Gu Mengmeng. 2 years had passed and he was still a first-level orc. Let me do it. Joshua took the firewood from Lee's hands and threw it into the fire. You? Leah was stunned for a moment but still nodded. After all, it was normal for a witch doctor to guard the door when a female was giving birth. Even Leah had guarded the entrance of the cave when Nina was giving birth. It was just that Nina was the one laying the eggs back then, so it didn't take much effort for her to lay them. Although she smashed all the eggs in the nest and none of them survived, the rule of a witch doctor guarding the door of a female giving birth really existed. Moreover, the bellies of the 16 valued females in Saint Nazir had been unusually neat for the past 2 years. Every year, a few of them would get pregnant and give birth. As a result, Joshua, the newly appointed witch doctor, had more experience in delivering babies than Leah. So, since Joshua was the witch doctor of Saint Nazir now, he should naturally be the one guarding the door. Moreover, there were not many males in the family and they did not have enough manpower. Although Joshua was not strong in battle, his medical skills were not bad. Moreover, Leah had mostly learned theoretical knowledge in the illusion realm and it was all theoretical knowledge. It was his first time going into battle personally. Leaving someone with actual combat experience at the door would at least be of help. Moreover, that idiot Oriton had already brought everyone to hunt. Now, he could not even catch one to stay back to help. Looking at the mountain of animal carcasses in front of his house, Leah really wanted to pinch Oriton to death. But, Rather than letting this idiot stay in the cave to create trouble, it was better to let him go out and go crazy. Anyway, winter was coming and these prey would not go to waste. After Gu Mengmeng gave birth, he would arrange for these prey to be distributed to the 16 valued females to tide over the winter. Anyway, as long as that glutton Oriton did not come back at this time to create trouble and harm Gu Mengmeng, Leah did not care about anything else. With Joshua in charge of boiling pots of water at the entrance, Leah had the time to accompany Gu Mengmeng in the cave. Her labor pains were getting more intense. Based on the childbirth knowledge he learned in the illusion realm, Leah knew that it was not long before Gu Mengmeng gave birth. Gu Mengmeng, who had experienced childbirth once, knew that her precious daughter could not wait to see her. Gu Mengmeng knew that her baby daughter could not wait to see her. It was just that Gu Mengmeng had never thought that foxes were so much bigger than wolves. Why did it feel even more painful than when Kanwa was born? Ah dash. The labor pain came again and Gu Mengmeng screamed her lungs out. She gripped the beast's skin beneath her with all her might and clenched her teeth, concentrating all her strength on her abdomen to push the child downwards. Elvis hugged her head, just like what Leah did when she gave birth to Huda and his brothers. His blue eyes were filled with heartache, as if a blunt knife was constantly cutting his heart. Elvis brought his hand to Gu Mengmeng's mouth and said, "Bite me if it hurts." He remembered that Gu Mengmeng had taught Colin this when Sandy was giving birth. Chapter 16-17. This was clearly not a fox's head, but a baby's head. Ah! Gu Mengmeng screamed in pain. As she exerted force, the baby's little face was already exposed. Leah wanted to lick the placenta, but, it was not a fox and did not have a placenta. How could he lick it? His tongue was already out, but he froze on the spot, not knowing what to do. Elvis glared at Leah and said, "What time is it now? Why are you still in a daze?" Leah did not know how to describe his feelings at that moment. He had been through many storms, but now, he was at a loss of what to do. He had all the theoretical knowledge, but he was not mentally prepared. For the past 10 months, he had always thought that he would be delivering a little fox, but this little fox was quite different from what he imagined. Ah! Gu Mengmeng exerted force again, and the baby slipped out. Leah was shocked and hurriedly caught his little princess. His eyes brimmed with tears as he looked at Gu Mengmeng, who was gasping for air like a fish out of water. He choked with sobs and said, "Mengmeng, it's been hard on you, thank you. I love you. Don't talk nonsense." Gu Mengmeng said weakly, "Bite off the umbilical cord, tie a knot, then carry her for me to see." Yeah. Leah did as he was told, using warm water to wash the child clean before wrapping her up in a soft beast skin and placing her beside Gu Mengmeng. He kissed her face and said, "This is the first time I've seen a newborn that is a complete female, and this most special child is our daughter." Leah nodded and said, Gu Mengmeng smiled as she looked at the little red person in her arms. Her motherly instincts were radiating. Gu Mengmeng kissed her precious daughter, then looked at Leah and asked, "Aren't you going to kiss her?" Leah shook his head and said, "Other than you, I won't kiss anyone else." Gu Mengmeng chided, "Pretentious." But she did not say anything else. Elvis saw that Gu Mengmeng's delivery was rather smooth, and heaved a long sigh of relief. He handed the baby over to Leah, then laid Gu Mengmeng down properly. As they tidied up the messy room, they said, "Maybe, now is the best chance." Leah was taken aback. He looked at the newborn baby girl in his arms, feeling extremely reluctant. Before they met, he could ruthlessly say that he wanted to kill her to protect Gu Mengmeng. But after witnessing her birth with his own eyes, Leah felt that he now had two hearts, one for Gu Mengmeng and the other for the little princess. No matter which one he cut out, it would still hurt. But Elvis was right. Thanks to Oriton, the entire beast world now knew that Gu Mengmeng's life was in danger. This was the best opportunity. After all, even acting couldn't be that realistic. Turning back to look at Gu Mengmeng who had fallen into a deep sleep on the bed, then at the soft little child in his arms, Leah hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. Kanwa happens to be here. Let him take care of this little sister. Lee's gaze was fixated on his youngest daughter's face. She had her eyes shut and was sleeping soundly like her mother, completely unaware that she had to be separated from her daughter the moment she was born. Every word that Leah said was like a sharp needle that pierced his heart. This child was equally precious to Elvis. As long as it was Gu Mengmeng's child, it would be his treasure. How could he bear to part with this little baby? Chapter 16-18. Leah thought for a moment and nodded. Then let's discuss it with Gu Meng when she wakes up. Elvis didn't say anything else and just continued to pack up the things in the room. Giving birth consumed a large amount of Gu Mengmeng's energy. Without the protection of the tear of the beast deity, Gu Mengmeng's body was extremely weak. After sleeping for a full day and night, Gu Mengmeng slowly opened her eyes. And this one day and one night was known as unconsciousness in the beast world. Elvis and Leah discussed their plan with Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng couldn't bear to part with her newborn daughter, but she also knew that this was the best opportunity. If she didn't make use of it, it would be extremely difficult for her to escape in the future. So, the next day, Gu Mengmeng sat at the entrance of the cave with Elvis carrying her while her face was pale and weak. Strangely, there was no wind within a kilometer radius around Gu Mengmeng. Obviously, this was Gregory's protection. Gu Mengmeng called Kanwu over and handed her daughter to him. She instructed him to bring her to the Snake King Valley and hand her over to Qixuan. Kanwu looked at his mother's weak state and his eyes turned red. He clenched his teeth and couldn't say a word. In the end, he just nodded his head cautiously. Gu Mengmeng's heart was filled with guilt. She made up her mind to explain everything to her son after the act. A mother faking her own death to deceive her son. Haha, there shouldn't be a mother more mischievous than her in this world. But she had no choice now. The more sorrowful Kanwu acted, the more real the news of Gu Mengmeng's death would be. Anyway, it was difficult for females to give birth. Many females had died giving birth to females, so the credibility was not low in the first place. Coupled with Oraton's hard work, no one would suspect that Gu Mengmeng had a difficult birth. In front of everyone, Gu Mengmeng's hands dropped and she acted out the beauty fades. It was a beautiful death. Elvis and Leah released their Beast King aura at the same time and pretended to lose control. They did not do it for any other reason than to prevent others from coming forward to cry. As long as they neared, they would realize that Gu Mengmeng's tightly shut eyelids were trembling and her eyeballs were rolling non-stop. Then, all their efforts would be wasted. After pressing everyone onto the ground, Gu Mengmeng hurriedly carried her little daughter in her arms, while Elvis carried Kanwu and Oraton on his shoulders. Leah carried Gu Mengmeng and her mother and quietly left the tribe that the two of them had created. Gu Mengmeng stood at the entrance of Saint Nazaire and could not help but look back. This was the hard work of Elvis and Leah, and also the tribe that she had been working hard to protect for the past 5 years. This place contained too many memories between them. There were joys and sorrows. Those small matters that did not matter in the past had now become precious memories. It was as if they weighed 1,000 pounds, causing Gu Mengmeng to be unable to move her feet. What's wrong? Elvis sensed the sadness on her face and asked with heartache. Gu Mengmeng looked up and met Elvis's blue eyes. Her voice was a little choked up as she said, "Hubby, are we going to have no home from today onwards?" In these 5 years, Gu Mengmeng had stayed in many places, be it the cave at the Snake King Valley or Sauter's Stone Castle. But only this cave at Saint Nazaire could be called home by her. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.